Thank you very much. I'd like to first thank the WCCS for having me over one more time. I think this is the fourth time I've been in front of you guys, Malaga, Barcelona, Paris before, and back in Paris. And it's always a huge honor speaking in front of you. Is this working? You guys hear me? Yes, okay. This is a wonderful organization. I don't know if you guys are aware, but you do an amazing job, especially having such different people, different backgrounds in chiropractic education, people from all over the globe, and it's already working, I think, way better than the WFC, than the ECU, than my association for sure. You guys, I'm always amazed by the job you're doing, so I'd like to congratulate you, first of all.
We're just having a little trouble hearing you.
Yes.
So we're going to head and a different microphone.
Okay.
Or that.
Or just get closer. Okay. All right. Now I can hear myself. I'm like, what the heck was I saying? Yes. No. And I want to say it again. Congratulate all you guys for the job you're doing and for all the effort that you're dedicating to the profession. And especially the WCCS, I think, is a very, very efficient, very well organized organization. And it's an honor to speak in front of you. I was just talking to Damiano about a mutual friend, a friend to many of you, whose name is Jaime Pinillos. He's been very involved with WCCS. And I'm actually here, first because you guys invited me, second because Damiano asked me and he's a dear friend, and also because Jaime allowed me. He was going to come to Madrid for this weekend. We were going to meet. We were going to have him speak at the Madrid school. And when I told him that I had the opportunity to come over, Jaime said, well, you just can't miss it. You have to go to Paris, so let's just reschedule. I'm not going to be able to reschedule him for this year because you know how busy he is. And just talking to Damiano just made me think that we need to honor Jaime for all the work he's done for the profession and he keeps on doing, and especially for the WCCS. So if you could please join me and give him a round of applause, please. Jaime. Okay, and he actually wanted to come over as well this weekend, but he's always wanted to be everywhere, so that's just Jaime. So all right, about myself, I'm a chiropractor. That's how I define myself, even though I spend 95% of my time not adjusting patients of my working time. I'm still a chiropractor, and that's my future, and that's my past. My dad was a chiropractor. My two sisters are chiropractors, and we've just come from a long family where my dad's both father and mother-in-law were chiropractors as well. My dad was from Belgium, but he came to Spain in the 70s and started amongst with other 4 chiropractors, the Spanish Chiropractic Association. And since then, we're just slowly growing. Spain is one of the last countries in Europe where there's no hint of legislation, but we're trying to do our best to get chiropractic recognized at the level that it deserves. So since my background, I decided to go to chiropractic college in Life West, since my dad and Dr. Klum were really good friends, and I had the best of times at Life West. I think it's one of the places where you can just not just study chiropractic, but breathe chiropractic and get exposed to many seminars, which is always a great opportunity. And that's also what I actually started developing passion towards teaching chiropractic. You know how important it is to communicate as chiropractors, especially in countries where chiropractic is not so well known as in Spain or even in France or in most of Europe, especially Southern Europe. We need to be able to tell our people and our potential patients to who we are, what we do, and how is it that chiropractic works. But first of all, we need to be able to communicate amongst ourselves. And this goes back to what Vivian was talking about. If we were able to communicate better, the future of the profession would be definitely more guaranteed. And right now we're at a point where communication is not at its best. But we are working towards making it better. And I know the ECU is definitely working in that direction. Myself, I went into practice to start, and then I was hired by the association, which is kind of weird. Because the association was very involved at the beginning of the first chiropractic school in Madrid, first chiropractic school in Spain. RCU, if you haven't visited, I'll just show you a couple of pictures. You definitely should visit. And I started to coordinate the program before it started in 2007, along with another chiropractor that was hired as the first coordinator. And we started classes in October, and I had my first day as a teacher teaching palpation. I had no previous experience at teaching in college. I had no previous experience at teaching to chiropractic students as a chiropractor, because I had taught as chiropractic student to other chiropractic students, but that was just right on, walking on fire for me that first day. So since then, I've never stopped seeing patients, and that's one of the main things I wanted to get through. Vivian just mentioned that clinical practice is definitely what most of you guys are looking for in the future, and I really emphasize that none of us should stop seeing patients, but of course there are other ways, other career opportunities in chiropractic. Although, do not forget, never stop seeing patients. That's the key to understand what we do. Well, okay. How is that better now? Okay. Well, this is where I work. This is the Madrid College of Chiropractic. These facilities in El Escorial, not exactly Madrid, northwest of Madrid, like 40 miles or 60 kilometers. So if you expect to go to Madrid, well, no, that's not Madrid. That's like saying that Life West is in San Francisco. That's what they told me, and then you go to beautiful Hayward, and you're like, all right. Well, this is just like Hayward, more beautiful, definitely, but Madrid is not San Francisco, let's admit it. And very often you just can't see what's happening in there, and you get foggy days. We are at 1,000 meters of altitude from sea level, so it's a very beautiful place in the mountains, and that was to me the right choice in 2007. I'm from Madrid. I was born in Madrid. I've always lived in big cities, and I wasn't a big fan into moving to a small town, but they used to tell me, that's just great to develop your studying abilities. Well, I don't need to study anymore. Or maybe yes, actually. So it's a good way to get centered into studying, academia, learning, and that's something that, again, has been said before, you never stop doing. And as an educator, you have absolutely no choice. So I had to change my environments from a big city to a small town. From my clinic that I opened with my sister in 2004, I decided in 2007 that I would completely quit the clinic. It was tough, but it would have meant to just have my head at 2 different places, something that Vivian has done at 2 or 3 different places, and I just wasn't able to find the opportunity. I started seeing patients in El Escorial. We opened the student clinic. And as we opened the student clinic, we had no student to see patients, of course, because we were on the first year. So the chiropractors, just a small group of 4 of us, started building up the practice so that when the first interns arrived, they could have enough patient base. So that was when I decided to move, and I could see an opportunity to keep on seeing patients while I could develop into a different environment, into the classroom, some other skills that many of you, I'm sure, have. So how did my teaching skills develop? Well, it's something that I believe many of you might have, because you probably have an idea, a good idea, if you're a good teacher, or if you could be or become a good teacher, if you enjoy teaching. That's probably the main point. When I started teaching at Life West was just a matter of money. Life West has a process of, I don't know if they still do, you could become a tutor for the dean, and you can teach other people's subjects as long as you had an A in that subject. So I was a geek, a nerd, whatever, empollón in Spanish, just a guy who studied quite often, and I decided, well, I can use this time better, and I can actually charge the school for this, since I cannot work legally in the US. Instead of working at a bar or something, I would just do a bunch of hours a week, like 20 hours a week teaching. And I realized I enjoy that. So it's a good way to start, teaching your own peer, teaching people that are at the same level or have gone through the same difficulties as you've been before. And after that, I decided when I got involved with the Carrick Institute that it would be good to start lecturing as well, to speak in front of a good group of people. That was my idea when we started the Neuro Club, me and my roommate, or my roommate and I, and we started actually teaching my roommate to me, or me to my roommate, because we didn't have too many people showing up to the Neuro Club back then. So it wasn't, I was expecting like, all the people in at Life West coming to listen to us, but it took us a few good months, maybe like 6 months to have our first guest. And then it started growing, and I think nowadays it's one of the busiest clubs too. So that was another part of the experience, and that's how you guys can also get started to teach technique, to teach philosophy, to teach different aspects of science. And it was a very, very good way of actually, first of all, to speak and have the feeling that no one is listening to you, which is really a very important thing to learn. And then eventually actually having people listen to you and get a better connection with them. After that, I found a way, when I started practice to keep on teaching, I started teaching yoga instructors during their training courses. They had to learn anatomy and physiology. And I think it's a great tool to talk to other professions. Like in this case, yoga instructors have many, many things in common with us, but it's a way not just for us to teach them or to show them that we have a certain knowledge, but also for them to get a little respect and knowledge about what chiropractors do. Oh, these guys know their shit about physiology and anatomy, and we can even ask them about pathology, and they know their stuff. So I found that a really, really good, useful tool. It's something that's really growing in Spain, and I'm sure it's growing pretty much all around the world, and there's a need for people that can teach basic anatomy and physiology, pretty much of the musculoskeletal system. So something that any of you, if you're interested, can do in a friendly environment with people that have a similar mindset than we do. And then we just started in 2007 with the college. I started teaching palpation, like I told you guys, and biophysics. What did I know about biophysics? Well, not much, actually. Not much. We got some help from ACC back then. I had to read books from high school and trying to remember what levers were and how you could calculate torque and momentum. And then I actually had to deliver. And you've probably heard this before. The best way of learning something is teaching it. So I learned a lot of biophysics and biomechanics on the second year and remember a lot of stuff. Had to remember part of my philosophy that I started teaching also. And again, coming back to something that I had done in the past, I was lucky enough to be able to teach neurology, which is really my passion. I enjoy my neurology classes. I have at least one student here, and I'm sure she knows, because I want to spend more time in class than they want. Well, that's not an exception, actually. But I just really enjoy so much, and started teaching 7 hours to 14 hours a week, which is definitely, well, I got to tell you guys, that's you can live out of that. That's for sure. And at the same time, seeing patients, I could see that my career was going towards education, and not in a bad way, but on the opposite. I was finding more and more excited about being able to teach. So finally, in 2011, we opened the student clinic because our first students got into the master year, and I became a supervisor, and eventually they actually asked me to become the clinic director, so I got ascendido, so I got a better job as a clinic director. I got a full-time job, and that's when I completely became a full-time educator in chiropractic. Well, not something that I searched for, but something that slowly my passion brought me towards. That's what I'm doing right now. I actually just stepped down from the clinic director position, but I'm still teaching full-time. I'm still seeing a few patients a week, and I want to keep doing that. And at the same time, I do try to manage the Spanish Chiropractic Association, even though sometimes there are some things happening in Spain. And we have some issues, and we don't have a legislation, but we're getting there, hopefully. So, how to get there? And these are just my hints or my tips for any of you who be interested into developing a career in chiropractic education. I think the main thing that you need is a vocation. You need to have something that really appeals to you and brings about passion regarding education. You need to have a passion for sharing information and sharing information with people that not always want to get their information. As a student, you don't choose which classes you go to, and sometimes you're just not passionate at all about what you're getting delivered. But as a teacher, you need to be able to develop that passion to share just anything regarding RCTs, regarding chiropractic politics, or regarding the pontomedullary reticular formation, right? Also, getting experience at any level, even if you're still a student, teaching to other peers, getting involved with the clubs, anything that would help you develop your public speaking skills, also in different languages. As you've probably noticed, English is not my best, but I try to speak in English in front of people every so often, just to keep it going. Also, keep practicing, keep your adjusting skills, keep your clinical skills, because that's what That's the only thing that actually makes you stay in touch with reality. And with reality, it means with the students, it means with you guys. Because most of you guys don't want to become educators. Most of you guys don't want to become researchers. You want to know what's going to happen when you have a patient on your table. How can you help them? And when you can't help them, how can you, or what should you do? And if you're not practicing, we've all of us have had teachers that are more like frustrated clinicians. That you can see that they probably never were able to open their own practice, or if they were, they just failed and they went into education. It's not the best, but I'm trying not to be one of those, and it definitely is not my advice. Also, obtain any degree of specialization. I don't have the typical career where I've been into a master's and PhD. I don't. It's something that I'm looking forward in the future, in the near future, hopefully. I have a master's of neuroscience in Spain. And I've also taken a lot of hours at the Carrick Institute. That was my passion, and that's what made me also the type of teacher that I am now. A lot of people associate me with teaching neurology, even though I'm not a Carrick diplomate, for example. So just find any type of specialization, whether it is a technique, whether it is into practice management, whether it is in philosophy, different aspects of science, and get yourself trained. And that's the most important part, training, because you need to be able to love learning and constant learning, even some type of pedagogic training, some type of training that would help you transmit the information that you're delivering. That's probably something that I'm definitely missing, even though I've taken a lot of seminars on medical education and on education in general. I think it's something that us chiropractors are not very good at. We're good at communicating to patients, but we're not that good at communicating to students, and I'm sure you agree with many of your teachers. So, looking to the future, especially in my perspective, the future of an educator will be eventually getting into research. Once you get into research, you develop your own knowledge, your own data, your own information. That's your specialty, and you're able to deliver that way better to your students. So I was just looking up the Journal of Chiropractic Education. I'm sure it's a journal that you guys read very often. And I was looking for articles that were trying to analyze what are the motivations and most of all the challenges that the chiropractic researchers face. And interestingly enough, this article finds that there's a lot of challenges regarding funds. There are challenges regarding how other professions sees us, but that the main challenge they found was that most of the chiropractors we do not support our researchers as good as we should. We do not support our research with money. We do not support our researchers with funds, inviting them to speak and actually being able to provide that information to the group. And that's something that I want to bring forward. It is a challenge, and it is something that only us can do better. I know that research is not always very exciting. Myself, just starting to get involved into research, but it's something that nowadays we can't escape. And evidence-based model, whether we like it or not, is going to come from within or from without. So I think it's way better that we develop it from within. We develop our own model. We develop our own funding systems. The ECU is doing actually a very good job there, and all our organizations are the ones who need to help and to support this future. Without it, there's probably no future. So, just a small hint of what's happening in Spain. As far as research, we're just developing our first projects at the MCC, and it's going to be coming very soon in Barcelona as well, with their collaboration with Cochrane collaboration actually. In Spain, we are a small country, chiropractic-wise, with only 250 chiropractors. We have 2 chiropractic colleges, as you all probably know, or definitely should know. We are accredited by ECC in Madrid, and Barcelona is running for reaccreditation in October, so hopefully we will celebrate in a few months that we have 2 accredited schools in Spain. In spite of that, the profession is not legally recognized, and the degrees are not recognized, which means, and that's very important, when you graduate from a Spanish college, you cannot go into further training. You cannot do a master's, you cannot do a PhD, unless you're able to, through accreditation, go to a different country and get trained in a different country. And that's a big break, and hopefully other especially when you guys get to a level where you are making decisions for your countries, hopefully you will be able to open the doors to graduates from our schools that will have their doors closed, at least so far in Spain, and we hope they will have the doors open in your countries to develop to do masters, PhD, and develop their research as well. This is the overall distribution of how many chiropractors. As you can see, there's many in Catalonia, and maybe one day they will go away because they want to become independent. So we will lose around 40% of our chiropractors. I just hope it doesn't happen, at least only because of that. This is Madrid, quite a few. Andalucía, South, sun, fun, party, Malaga, you know. There's a good degree of that also here in El Levante, Valencia. Okay, I'm going to speak closer now. And then there's just so many places with one chiropractor per 800,000 patients. There's so much to do at a clinical level that we just have the worst time trying to find educators. It's almost impossible. We just need to populate the country first with clinicians. And for that, we welcome you all. Not just from Europe, from everywhere, but we definitely are very open to receiving chiropractors in Spain. And there's many job opportunities at the clinic, in the clinic area. But I can also tell you that education should be hiring very soon as well. This is just an overview of the programs in Europe. You can see that there's a few missing here, exactly. There's a few missing. Not all of them are accredited, but these are the main programs right now in Europe. You probably know all of them, and some of them are not in Europe, but are accredited through the ECC. And these are just some new programs that are coming out very soon. Actually, the one in Istanbul is already working. I don't know if you guys are in contact with them or not, but they're already on their first cohort. And all of these guys are already looking for teachers, already looking for educators to just deliver the message to the next chiropractic generation. So this is Turkey. Sorry. This is Poland, Gdansk. This is Istanbul. This is Georgia. This is Norway, where I don't know what the conversations are right now. Okay, still waiting. And Life University is in Rome, probably opening 2018, probably, most likely. But there's a lot of opportunities also coming, not just from the schools that are already existing, not only from these guys, but just look at the future as well. There's a lot of opportunities coming out there. So just to finish, a few more short studies. I'm going to just tell you what I took from these studies from the Journal of Chiropractic Education. How do the students see the teachers? And this is pretty interesting because it's a study from a school that's doesn't have a great reputation amongst chiropractors, but the study is very well done. It's from the Swedish or the Scandinavian school, and the main author works also at the Karolinska Institute in Stockholm, which is one of the most one of the institutes of biomedical research with the best reputation. And I think it's very well translated to most of the schools. The students tend to see the teachers, tend to have a very good image of us as teachers when they start. And eventually, as they go on during the program, the way you guys see us tends to just be worse and worse. One of the main reasons they see that is stress. Stress during chiropractic education just keeps on growing. This is a study from McTimoney. And at McTimoney, they found out that the fourth year is the worst. I don't think McTimoney is the only one to think that way. I'm sure Madrid thinks that the fourth year is the worst. Pre-clinic and Clinic 1 at Life West, which is equivalent to fourth year, is definitely the worst. I know that Barcelona fourth year is definitely terrible. So you guys just get more and more stress, more and more demand, and tend to think that your teachers are worst and worst. But you guys, that stress also comes on our side. I'm going to show you why. This was published last year on a US just web-based newspaper or journal, and chiropractic was ranked very high on professions with future, and it was actually ranked #1 on this study with only 0 or 0.1% of unemployment, which for countries like Spain, where we have up to 30% in people your age of unemployment, that's huge. We know that all of our graduates find a job pretty fast in the first 6 months. and it's probably the same for most chiropractors in Europe. I know it's not exactly the same in the US, but the situation is pretty good. But for chiropractic educators, I really like this study because it's a way of it's a reivindication for the situation that we are facing as chiropractic educators. It's a comparative study that's performed at what used to be called LACC. I think it's South California University of Health Sciences right now, if I'm not mistaken. And it's a comparison between the situation that chiropractic educators face compared to just educators in any other area of the university in the US. So they compare numbers at the LACC, ex-LACC, to numbers from the US Department of Education. And it's pretty bad. So you guys need to at least be a little bit empathic with us. We can only create 1% of all the amount of articles or research that most educators, or the average of educators, are developing in the US, for example. I would say in Spain is like 0.01%. But also we get paid, at least in the US, 2/3 to 50% of the wages that educators get paid as an average in the global of the US, numbers from the US Department of Education. So we don't produce too much, we don't get very well compensated, but the worst is that we get a teaching load that's 50 to 200% higher than teachers in most of the, or again, as an average in the US. I can see those numbers very well reflect the situation in Spain. We get a huge load, we still want to see patients because we don't get very well paid, to be honest, I'm sorry to say that. And at the same time, we cannot produce our own research because we don't have enough funds. And I don't want to just make this a complaint or anything, but I want to show you what are the challenges and conclude with what are the opportunities if you do choose the path to become a teacher. There's just not too many funds, and I'm bringing this for you guys because you will have to decide in the future. I'm sure many of you will be politicians or leaders in the future. There's a huge lot of work, a lot of stress, and the fourth year is not only stressful for the students, it's also stressful for the teachers. Not too much support from colleagues or for example, from the profession. It's important to realize, just as an example, that when chiropractors have organized seminars, nothing against the convention or anything, but the prices for the seminars are usually thought for chiropractors. And chiropractic educators have a harder time just getting more training because we can make as much money as a chiropractic does. And again, I'm not trying to be like I don't want you guys to think, well, these guys just came here to complain all the time. No, not at all, okay? There's big differences among chiropractic programs, which makes hard to communicate and to exchange students, which is something that in most careers is, especially in Europe with Bologna and before Bologna with Erasmus, is something that we should be doing way more. We should be having students from Paris in Madrid, from Madrid in Bournemouth, from Bournemouth in Denmark, and just having exchange programs that are not well developed yet. And I think this is also part of the problem, that we are not yet integrated within academia. And again, the lack of the lack of integration, the lack of similarity is also difficult for us because we don't have a good or the same background of recognition as well. But these are just the challenges. And let me just finish with the opportunities. If you do choose to become an educator, it's something that, I can't say enough how happy it makes me feel when I go to the classroom every single day. It's something that needs to come out of your vocation. I'm just happy to have all of you guys, any of you guys, ask me questions, come to my classes, and then eventually become clinicians, leaders. Hopefully one day, one of you guys also will say, hey, I'd like to become an educator. The mobility that it gives you also, you can be an educator and you don't have to think about selling your practice. You can go study somewhere else, do a master's, do a PhD, go work at a different school. I've been in touch with Life West. I'd love to go back to San Francisco. Oh no, Hayward, sorry. One day. Getting also the opportunity to expand your careers. There's no limits right now. Chiropractic education is still very, very young, so we're growing even more than the actual profession. We can or we get to continually learn, develop our own research, and this is the most important to me. While we do this, we stay in touch with you guys. We stay in touch with the future. So we're looking towards the future. We get to influence the future. We get to be able to deliver our message and our way of seeing chiropractic and our passion towards chiropractic and shaping where we're going. Well, there's a few more things, but to finish, I think when you choose to become a chiropractic educator, it's just another way. It's just another way to help chiropractic grow, integrate, and expand as a profession. But it's a way that we need to support a lot more. So if I can ask you just one thing is support your teachers, try to be more empathic with them, and consider that in the future you might want to become that teacher that's day-to-day delivering that information and being the one who's passing the message and passing the torch. That's my way. I'm actually finding it absolutely fun, exciting, and I'm definitely not willing to just go back to practice if I can ever. I like to just continually teach all my life. So if I can just get that message across, I think my speech here has had a good reason. Thank you very much.
All right. Could we get you four up here towards the front of the room?